the fact that I would have not picked this up if she hadn't done that, no, I can't believe that. It's just, this is so good. Hello my loves, and thank you for joining me. It's Kirsten. This week I am starting off with a rather brutal book, and I didn't expect it. I picked this one up yesterday evening because I wanted something just different to read, and I was going through my June TBR and I was like, okay, you know what? I think this paired with the non-fiction book that isn't part of my June TBR but is something that I am planning to read this week, I feel like that would be a great contrast, because then we'll have the non-fiction paired with a book from the perspective of a bee. And I thought that this was just going to be really interesting, maybe have some like beautiful writing of different nature and things, because obviously we've got a bee as our perspective. Thought it was going to be a bit brutal, like not as bad as what it is, simply because of on the back it does say except obey serve, so I knew it was going to be a bit more of an authoritative world that we're in. Yeah, this is very brutal. I was really surprised. So we're following Flora 717. The first part of this book, like the very first page, I thought that this bee was trapped inside some sort of torture chamber or something, the way it was written. Turns out it was her egg and she was hatching. Really interesting way of doing that. And so Flora is brand new bee, has just been born. She is getting all this information about her world, and it is full on. It is all kind of dumped on you in this kind of chaotic way, but it also works for the fact that obviously Flora has just been born, and so she's overwhelmed and she's taking in all this information, which is very interesting how it's been written, that she's picking up all this information through like her antennae and everything, which I thought very clever concept. So this first bit I've read up to chapter 7, page 45. Very easy to read from, actually. The formatting of the book is very easy. As much as it is quite info dumpy in these first 45 pages, because you're getting a lot of information thrown at you in terms of the structure of the hive, the way it works with different bees do different things, and this whole authoritative state that they're in. It is a lot, but Flora is overwhelmed with it as well, so I think that's one of the ways that I like getting a lot of world building and stuff, is when our character is brand new to it as well, and it kind of works with that plot line that, oh my gosh, this is so much information, but because the character feels overwhelmed with it as well, it makes sense, if that makes sense. But yeah, this is brutal. Literally in the first chapter you have a bee that's being killed because of a deformity. Her wing is crumpled. So the first bit that Flora actually deals with is this bee that comes running into her cell where she's been born. Then you have this police bee that are coming after her saying, well, you've fled inspection, and this bee's like, no, please, I can't fly, but I can do other things, I can help in other ways. And they're just like, deformity is evil, deformity is not permitted, and then kill her. Bee police are like robots, like they're just so brutal. And throughout all of this, like, so far we've just realised that pretty much everything is a sin. Greed is a sin, desire is a sin, like everything. And it's so brutal. And I was reading this before bed and I was like, this is not what I expected. But I will be carrying on, and I will be using my bee book sleeve because, you know, matches. And as I said, I do have the non-fiction book that is across the room, so I'll get that when I actually start it. I am looking forward to that one. And this week is my last week off work before going back to work. I don't have loads planned. Definitely going to be a bit more relaxed compared to last week, because that was quite full on. Today I just need to get some videos edited. That's it, really. It's going to be quite a nice relaxing one. Like even last week I don't think I even did a cooking bit or anything because I was so busy. So I think we're just going to have a more relaxed week. I say that, but obviously plans go out the window. But yeah, I hope you guys are all doing well. The usual sort of questions, let me know, what have you been up to, what are you reading currently, as always. Right, I am rambling, so I'm gonna go and catch up with you soon. This book is so confusing. I read some more of this last night, and I'm now up to page 87, chapter 12, and there has been so much that's happened in this first bit. as I said, it is very brutal, but we've also had Flora tackle a wasp and the chaos that ensues when a wasp is attacking a beehive, the casualties that happen, the resultant fact that Flora is then able to see the queen. It's just so unusual. This world is so unusual, and I don't know whether I like it or not. Can I say it's well written? I'm not sure. I'm just very confused with everything that's happening in this book. Even like the imagery and stuff, like I was kind of hoping to get a bit more imagery of the bees and stuff, as I mentioned, and I haven't had any of that either. I think it's a very good look at a dictatorship, almost like a clan, well it is, it's a hive mindset, and the way that everyone is just so almost like zombies or robots in the way that they think, where everything is a sin, you must obey, you must, like, it's so rigid. And Flora is this kind of like loose cannon that's kind of just going around bumping into things, trying to understand everything, and she doesn't. It's so weird. It's so unusual. Yeah, that's all I have to say on this so far, because I really don't understand a lot of this book, and I don't know whether it's meant to be that way. As I've never heard anyone talk about this one, so it's a bit of an unusual one. But yeah, it says on the back one wild ride, and it definitely is that. There is a lot of stuff that's happening. I'm hoping that things will start making a bit more sense as we go a bit further in, but so far I kind of put the book down each time and go, what did I just read? So yeah, very, very unusual. But I did actually start off my day with relaxing in a coffee shop and reading Geisha of Gion by Mineko Iwasaki, and this is really good. I'm really enjoying this. So this is the true story of Geisha. This is my first proper non-fiction book that I've ever read. I'm now up to chapter 6, page 53, and I'm really enjoying it. It's actually written as if it's a story of her life, and it's just written in a way that is so accessible, and I thought it'd be a bit more heavy with things, but actually it works really well. And we're following her from when she's about 3 years old, how she encounters Madame Oma, who is a mistress of the geisha house, and how she wants to take Mineko to be her prodigy and to take over as mistress of the house, how Mineko's parents are very much like, no, we don't want that, but it is Mineko's choice, how Mineko starts spending time at the geisha house and eventually chooses to stay there when she's 5 years old. I think it's really beautiful, and I'm really intrigued as to where this goes. Again, some of the imagery in this is lovely, but I was very confused because I had gone on the assumption that Memoirs of a Geisha was actually based on her life story, and that's not exactly true. So the plot line of Memoirs of a Geisha is completely different, it's completely fictional. However, the parts that Mineko Iwasaki did not like was the fact that she did tell Arthur Golden a lot of things that happened in her life. She spoke to them about a lot of the people in her life, which Arthur Golden then used within his book. So for example, Mineko's father, his name is used for a character in this book that isn't a great character. He's he's the reason that the character in this book ends up in the geisha house and is taken away from her family, which was very different to what actually happens in this book. That was the reason. So I did a bit of research because I was getting very confused because the timelines were completely different, the plot lines were completely different, and I was like, but I thought this was the true story of what actually happened because we weren't happy with this. And it is, but also not because of the plot line, but because of the fact that what she portrayed as being a geisha, Arthur Golden kind of twisted, and then taking those people in her life and just using them as characters. That's what wasn't happy with this, and the depiction of being a geisha and everything that goes along with that. So it's very interesting. So now I understand the difference in that. It makes a lot more sense, and I can say that the storyline of this I found very dark and very upsetting at times, but it was very well written and I did enjoy it. But I'm pleased that I'm picking this one up to actually see what it's like to have been an actual geisha and to have that as part of your life rather than just a fictionized version of events. And also, obviously, it's not fair to have taken Mineko's family members' names and just used them in this book but attributed them to different characters and stuff when, you know, that's not something you should have done. There are things that Mineko's talking about that are parallels to this, which I think Arthur Golden's then taken inspiration from what's happened with events in her life and then twisted them to put into this book. So I can see the frustration of that, where you've been speaking to someone and then they've just taken what you've said and twisted it and stuff. So yeah, but I am really enjoying this. I'm going to continue with this one today. I think, as I said, it's just really well written. It's like an accessible story for me, which, I don't know, I always had the feeling that non-fiction wouldn't be that accessible, but it is, and I'm kind of excited to read more. Very happy with this one. I think it's going to be a really interesting read, especially now that Mineko is actually at the house and she's learning to become a geisha, although they use a different word for it. It's a geku? Geku? Yeah, a geku. I'll put it up here because I think I'm pronouncing that wrong, and that's the actual wording that they use. So yeah, really enjoying this. I think it's really well done, and I so far am very much preferring it to the bees, because the bees just, it's very confusing. Very confusing. So that's what we're reading at the moment, 2 books at once. And then I did also do a little bit of shopping. I basically just needed tights. So I go to Primark to get tights because I don't want to pay a fortune for tights. And ended up coming out with a few more things than what I'd planned to get. One is this. And this I saw and it just made me so happy. And I loved it. And it was the only one there. I couldn't see any others like it. And I really liked it. I thought it was really pretty. So that's now hanging up above my bed because, I don't know, it's lovely. Then I also got a couple more picture frames, which I mentioned a few weeks ago that I'm going to be putting all of my art prints into frames. You can see I've got one in a frame here, and then putting them all up on my wall. So I picked up 2 frames because they were literally £1.50 each, and I really liked them. It was nice, simple pink. They have a little bit of like gold detailing around the edge, so I decided to get 2 of those. Planned out exactly what frames are going to go with what prints, like what colour wise and stuff, so I knew that I needed 2 pink frames in this size, and I saw these and I thought, perfect. So I picked those up, especially for £1.50 each, like you cannot go wrong with that. And that was it. I didn't do much else yesterday. It was quite a relaxing day. Today I'm actually planning to go out to the V&A Museum. It's somewhere that I've been wanting to go for ages. I love clothing and fashion and just general interest, especially that older period which the V&A kind of specialises in, so I'm very excited to go. I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to take Geisha of Gion with me because I am enjoying this one, and I'll bring you along. But right, I've rambled. We're now at the 11-minute mark. I'm gonna go. I did go to the V&A Museum and had a lovely time just looking around at all the fashion part of it. That's the main bit that I like. The big circular through the ages of fashion is definitely so much fun. And then obviously you have all the different cultures there as well. It's a really good way just to spend a few hours, and of course it is free to get into, so it's just perfect. It's fun and something that I want to get back in the habit of going to museums because they are just so good. While I was out, I did bring the Geisha of Gion with me, as I said I was going to. I read another 50 pages, so I'm up to page 103, chapter 11, and I think I am just going to stick with it and reading this slowly over the course of this week, 50 pages a day. It's very slow paced. Again, we're just following her life story. At the moment we're at the point where Mineko's just started learning all about the dance and everything, so she's still 5 years old, and she's just teaching us about the dances and what it means to learn all of that as a geisha, and how the formalities of it all work with your teacher and everything. So it is very slow, but I am enjoying it, and I think learning about this culture and everything is just lovely. And again, imagery, perfection. So yeah, so not too much to talk about with that one. And then after I'd been to the museum, I met up with my partner for a very short while just before he had work, and then came home and read. That's all I did. Now, I've decided to put down the bees for a little while. I'm just finding it a bit confusing. As I said, I haven't progressed at all since I last updated with this, and I just wasn't feeling it. And I knew I didn't want to read any more of A Geisha of Gion, so I decided to pick up Daughter of a Moon Goddess, which if you saw the end of last week's vlog, then you would know that my sister gave me this one to read. She came up for my other sister's wedding and brought with her a couple of books for me to borrow and read, and obviously when I'm done I'll be sending them back to her, and this is one that she really enjoyed, and I'm so excited because it's one that I was thinking about but also not sure if I would ever actually pick up, and oh my gosh, what a mistake that would have been. I'm loving this. First of all, she got the exclusive edition with the sprayed edges, which, hello, perfection. And I am in love. I got up to chapter 12, page 149, and I've just been loving this. It's a shame that this isn't my edition because there are so many points I would have annotated and underlined and just adored. So I think what I'm going to do is definitely get my own version, but probably wait till it's in paperback because I do prefer paperbacks. I'm loving this. The pink end pages are just, they go well with this green so perfectly. But this story is just delightful. So we're following Xingyin, and she is the daughter of the moon goddess. She finds out that her mother's been imprisoned on the moon for taking this elixir of immortality that was gifted to her father, but she takes it instead to rescue her baby because she knew that she was going to die in childbirth and she didn't want that to happen, so to stop it from happening she takes the elixir. As a result, she is then banished to the moon, but they don't realise that she was pregnant. So she has our main character when she's on the moon. Nobody knows about her, nobody knows her existence until one day our main character is forced to flee the moon and she resolves to find a way to set her mother free. Now, because they are immortals, time doesn't mean much, so we have quite a few time jumps in this. So we've actually progressed 2 years already, and she ends up at the palace of the people that banished her mother in the first place. And she ends up befriending the prince because the prince is nothing like the emperor and empress. He is so lovely and thoughtful, and it's just beautiful, and their relationship has just blossomed from friends to potentially lovers now. But you can feel it's all about to come crashing down, and I'm so nervous, and that's why I stopped it. I could have read more last night, but it really is, you can just feel that it's about to come crashing down. And I'm not ready. I'm not ready. This is just so good. Is it a bit predictable because you know it's all going to come crashing down and I kind of know how it's going to go? Yes. We'll see if that's actually true, but it's just so well written. It's really accessible, and I think it's written in a way where if you're not fully used to fantasy, this is a good stepping stone for it. But it just reminds me of things like Elizabeth Lim's writing. It's fantastic. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye out for Sue Lin Tan's and other works that she comes out with. I know we've got the second one of this book coming out later this year, and I'm definitely going to be interested in anything else she brings out because the writing is just beautiful. I'm absolutely loving it. This is a sort of YA book that I can get behind, and obviously is influenced by Chinese mythology as well, so yeah, loving this. I'm so thankful that my sister brought this up for me to read, because the fact that I would have not picked this up if she hadn't done that, no, I can't believe that. It's just, oh, this is so good. So yeah, this isn't on my TBR, so I've jumped off my TBR completely just to pick this one up, but it's exactly what I needed at the moment. And like I said, I'm just not feeling the bees. It's just, it wasn't what I expected going into it, and it's a bit full on. I will get to it like later this month, but for now, I'm good. I want to focus on Daughter of a Moon Goddess and then continue on with A Geisha of Gion, because this is a good combination. I'm enjoying this combination. So that's the plan. Today I don't have much that I'm doing at all really. I've got a couple videos to edit, and I think I'm just going to read some more of this. Good morning. Where did I leave you last? Today we're on Friday. So I think I spoke to you Wednesday morning. What did I do Wednesday and Thursday? Oh gosh. Oh yeah, of course. So we're up to speed. Okay, so Wednesday I didn't do too much at all, just relaxed. It was my partner's birthday, but he tends to just like that day just to chill. So I saw him for a couple of hours, but nothing major. Instead, we decided to celebrate it more yesterday, which big mistake because it's the Queen's Jubilee. And that means that England has turned into a 4-day crazy fest. It's mad. And when we went up to central London yesterday, although I did go a bit before him, it was just packed everywhere with people just standing in Trafalgar Square. But it was packed so much that you couldn't move, and all because there was an air show of some planes going across. And I'm just like, yep, cool, but why? If I'd known that was going on, I wouldn't have gone up there. It was crazy. Thankfully, when I went up there first by myself, I was walking along South Bank and went to South Bank Book Market, which is lovely. I love it there, and it wasn't as busy, like it was as you would expect it for half term. So that was absolutely fine, and I really enjoyed it, and I did manage to find a book. First of all, this is stunning. Is that half the reason why I picked it up? Yes. Yes, it is. Now, this is Love in a Cold Climate by Nancy Mitford, and this is a book I've only recently heard about. I can't remember whose channel I was watching, but I was watching YouTube because that's all I ever do. Like, if I'm not reading books, I'm making videos about books, and if I'm not making content about books, I'm watching other people's content about books. That's it. So yeah, there's so many people that I watch that I can't remember exactly who was talking about this one, but I'll have them linked below if I manage to find them. And they were just like, this was weird. And we're following this girl who it's her time to become married and everything, like it's her season of marriage that they had back in the time, except she decides to defy everybody's wishes and marry her uncle instead, and then can't seem to understand why things aren't working out the way that she had hoped, like people aren't accepting it as much. Well, yeah, incest, like even back then, hello. But yeah, apparently that's what this book is about. And I had no intention of picking it up, but then I saw this edition and it was beautiful, and it's not an edition you can get anymore. This was actually something that the Times did as a small print run of 5 different books, and this is the one that I managed to find. And it was only £3.99, so I was just like, you know what, sure. And I read the first couple pages. I like the writing style, so it probably is a story that I will pick up eventually. Probably not anytime soon, but I had to have it. It looked so perfect. And then yeah, as I said, so I was doing all of that earlier before my partner came up because he likes to sleep in, I do not, so I spent the morning up there earlier looking at all the book market, going to the little foils that's by South Bank, like all of that. And then I thought, you know what, I've still got a bit of time because about another half hour before he was actually getting into London. So I was like, let me go sit at Waterstones in Trafalgar Square. I can go at the top, have a coffee and everything, except getting there was like waging war. And then by the time you get there, you had this poor gentleman standing on the stairs, literally just having to go, there is a 30-minute wait for everything. Even if you just want a bottle of water, it's a 30-minute wait. For those of you that try to, like, it was mad. And he was just like, I don't even know what's going on today. Like, he couldn't even understand why there were so many people stood outside. And it wasn't until we were battling to get through the crowd once my partner had arrived that the plane started going overhead that we then realised that's why everybody was there. So yeah, it was mad. But we did have a nice meal out, which is what he wanted for his birthday, so that all worked out well in the end. Now, reading. I've made quite a bit of progress with both of these books. So with Geisha of Gion, I'm now up to chapter 26, page 232. So I only have about 100 pages left of this one, and I am enjoying it. We actually went through a few chapters of her dealing with quite some hardship. Before we got into the hardship, she did talk about a couple of people that she knew from her career that she really liked, really got on with, and she spends a lot of time drilling into the fact that geisha are not what the Western society and even like what Arthur Golden's Memoirs of a Geisha did, which is making them out to be people that work, that sell their bodies as well as their entertainment. And she's just like, that is not what we are. We are artisans, we dance, we provide entertainment for meal functions, we do not sell our bodies. And so she makes that point quite a lot in this book. However, there are moments where she does have to deal with a lot of horrible behaviour, not just from other girls who are also Geiko and see her a bit more as a rival, but also from men taking advantage out in the streets when she's walking around and stuff, because she is pretty much famous at this point and she doesn't like it and she struggles with it, seeing that struggle. I really liked that. I thought it does a good balance between letting us know information about how different establishments got established and then also just the difficulties in her actual life that she is trying to face. So I think it does it quite well. I mean, if you can hear some sort of drill thing going on in the background, I apologise. We have two neighbours that are literally just a couple houses apart that are having work done in their gardens, so this is amazing. But yeah, so I'm finding this really interesting. I think it's really insightful and I am looking forward to continuing on with the rest of it. And then we have Daughter of a Moon Goddess. I'm now up to part 3. I've read a lot, and also can we just appreciate that on each of the parts, that is gorgeous. I love it. But this is just stunning. I'm really enjoying this book. So part 3 is chapter 27, page 331. So I've read a big chunk of this book. I really don't have much left to go. I think I've got 100 and maybe 60 pages left to go. I'm, yeah, loving this. And I do actually plan on finishing it today because I'm just enjoying it so much. As I said, part 1 I found to be really beautiful, really well written. Even though it was taking place over the course of a few years, it worked really well. It was nice and slow paced and it worked. Then part 2 happens and we have our main character who's going on these series of adventures. It jumps around a lot and it's really jarring. And I understand why it's there, but I didn't enjoy it as much. I felt like it was very, very different from part 1 to part 2, and just the feeling of it was different. Also, our main character is having to deal with a lot of dangerous situations, but they don't feel too dangerous. Like, it's always like, you know, she's going to get through the situation, and it doesn't feel like massive high stakes. But then there are parts of this book where there'll be sentences and I'll just be like, God damn it. Because in all honesty, I was thinking when I was reading part 2, maybe I won't get this book because I'm not sure. And then there were just little points and I loved it, to the point where I actually made a note on my phone for different pages where I was just like, these quotes, it just is really, I'm loving it. And I've made the notes so that when I do get the paperback version of this, because now I will be for definite, because some of these quotes, like, they're hitting me in the feels. So I can go back and actually just underline those straight away, and then when I reread it I will fully annotate it properly. So getting up what I noted on my book, because obviously I haven't made anything in my sister's book because that's just rude. We have page 285, My Own Desires Mattered Too. And then page 312, I Loved Myself More. And those two just really, really spoke to me, and it's made me go, okay, I need to get this book, because those two in particular, as well as loads in part 1, like I have to admit there were loads in part 1 that I really liked. It kind of saved part 2 for me in terms of like, okay, we haven't lost her as a character and the way she feels and thinks about things. It was definitely more interesting because you got more of the world in part 2, you got more looks into the different creatures, into the way the world is set, the political things, like you got a lot more of all of that, which was interesting. So I'm intrigued to see what part 3 brings me, because yeah, I'm intrigued. But like I said, I actually do plan on finishing this today, because today I don't have loads of plans. Actually, this whole weekend I don't, because I do not plan on going up in London again. I just plan on relaxing. I've got quite a few videos that I want to edit. That's for the rest of June, because as always I pre-filmed, so I want to edit those. I want to read this, and I also want to do some Instagram photos and things, and just, yeah, enjoy it. So I'm hoping that today I'm going to finish this. Tomorrow I would like to finish that, because one thing I've realised is we're in the first week of June and I've not read anything from my June TBR. The one book that I was reading on my June TBR I've put down for now. These are not on my June TBR at all. I've just completely ignored my June TBR, and I have 8 books on that to get through. What am I doing? I don't know. But I'm having a good time. Right, I'm rambling. I'm gonna go. I'll catch up with you tomorrow, probably once I've finished this one, to wrap up the vlog and just final thoughts on both the books. But yeah, okay, I've spoken for way too long. Good afternoon. I've had a really relaxing couple of days. I've enjoyed it so much. Yesterday was just spent editing and reading, so I did actually finish Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I really enjoyed this one. There are problems with it, I'm gonna be honest, but I did like the writing. As I've already said, like, there have been sentences throughout this book that I've really enjoyed, really connected to, and just loved it. And the actual imagery that's done, like the descriptions, the depictions of everything, is just, I really liked the actual writing. The thing that I don't get on with as much is the plot and pacing. I feel like there were elements of the plot that just could have been done a little bit better, and we do have a love triangle that happens in this, but I feel like one part of the love triangle was great because it was really well developed, it was slowly developed, you really saw their bond growing, but then the second part of the love triangle, so the second love interest, it felt very rushed and very like thrown together, which I didn't like, especially for the amount of emotion that on the part of the love interest towards our main character. Almost like a level of obsession going on, and I feel like there wasn't anything to build that up. And like, our main character does talk about, oh, you know, some of these memories are really hard, but it's like, what memories were those? Because I could see it with the first love interest, because we built that relationship together. Like, part one was really, the pacing was just that little bit slower, but it built everything and you could see these characters growing together, and I really liked it. But with the second love interest, there wasn't much of that. And also the pacing for part 2 and 3 was just very different, which I did touch upon already, which I think actually I mentioned yesterday. It was enough that it was jarring and would bring me out of the story. It was just frustrating, and I was talking over my sister, because obviously she's the one that let me borrow this book, and she agreed. She was like, we both liked it, we both liked the writing, but we both agreed that it could have been slowed down a bit and even maybe just split into 2 books. I know there is going to be a sequel to this one, like it's coming out at the end of this year, but I feel like it could have been, because there's so many time jumps and it was very stilted, and there were just so many things happening that you could have just built upon it a little bit more, had those connecting moments, and just the same sort of pace as part 1. So I feel like I fell in love with part 1 and in love with the writing, but then parts 2 and 3 just bring it down that little bit and stop it from being a new favourite. I stand by what I said though. I would still like to get my own copy of this. I still want to get the second book, and I would be interested to see what Su Lin Tan brings out next. I also can't say it's a new favourite, if that makes sense. So that was yesterday, and then today I met up with my other sister who actually lives closer to home. We met up for a coffee and then lunch and went to the park, and just, it was lovely. It was really nice. Then spent the last hour finishing The Geisha of Gion. I did like this one. I found it really interesting, and it also made me feel a lot more confident to actually tackle non-fiction books, because I have always been a bit daunted by them, because I've always felt that I wouldn't enjoy it because it was just going to be too much information thrown at me. Whereas this, I feel like, was a good blend of storytelling for like different things that was happening throughout Mineko's life and telling us the stories of those, but then also giving us the information behind it, so all of the formalities and things that I have briefly mentioned already throughout this vlog. And so I really appreciated that, and seeing what it takes, the dedication that Mineko put in to become a geisha, to take on that responsibility, and to then be able to retire at the age of 29. Fantastic. There was one part in this book which I thought, actually, I think Arthur Golden maybe took too much inspiration from, and that's Mineko's friend. You hear about her life before she became a gecko and how her life was, and her parents were from like a fishing village, which is exactly what it is in Memoirs of a Geisha, about what she had to go through in being bought for her body as well, which again, that is everything that happens in Memoirs of a Geisha. And so I can really see how we have taken that westernized version of it, instead of being true to what an actual geisha is, which is somebody that, as I mentioned already, how a geisha is someone that dances and entertains but does not ever sell her body. And obviously that was twisted, and something that Mineko remains frustrated about is the fact that that has become so twisted in culture and mixing it too much with what a geisha actually is and the way the world perceives them. So that was on the most interesting part, and also seeing those correlations and things that Arthur Golden has taken from Mineko's life and what he's changed and twisted about it. So I think reading them both together, as I have done, was really good, and as I said, it makes me feel a bit more confident to actually tackle non-fiction books, which I would like to do more of. So I will be on the hunt for some more non-fiction books. If you've read any good ones, let me know, pop them in the comments below and I'll have a look. If it's something that interests me, I will look into picking them up. I'm really pleased I read this. And yeah, I think this was a really interesting story as well, and just seeing how hard Mineko actually worked herself to the bone, and how a lot of it was, yes, some of it put on by others, but a lot of it was herself in her quest to become #1. And I read a few reviews on Goodreads, and it was saying how a lot of people didn't like Mineko, thought she was very full of herself. But at the same time, while those things that, yes, are true, Mineko does say how, comment on that now and go, you know, I was very silly and people laugh about it now. Because she was brought up this way. She had a very narrow view of the world because she was brought up from the age of 3 years old that she was this very important person. She never had to worry about money or tidying up or learning to cook or anything in her life. Never had to deal with any of that until her late 20s. And that's when she started learning to fend for those things, and that's when she realised how she had such little knowledge of how the outside world actually works. And she was in this little bubble, and people would ridicule and have a laugh at her for it because she was so self-important. But she openly admits that in this book as well. At the same time, she says, you know, I'm prideful. That was instilled in me. I kept my pride. It's one of those things that for me, I can see why she is that way. And so when I was reading some of those reviews and things, I could agree with them, but also not agree with them putting the book down because of it, because it's just like, that's, I don't know, I can agree with that part. Anyway, I'm going off on a complete tangent here, but I really enjoyed this book. I think hearing the life of Mineko Iwasaki was so interesting, and just learning the intricacies of becoming a geisha and what it actually means to be a geisha, very interesting. But there we have it for the week. We did not make any progress with my June TBR at all, like I was meant to, but that's fine, that's fine. I mean, we're only on the 4th of June, I'm sure I can... Okay, yeah, I should probably start now. But that's fine. I mean, a lot of the books were small this month for June, so that's great. Anyway, I am going to be rambling, so I'm going to stop while I'm ahead, or well, sort of ahead, and say thank you so much for watching. If you have made it this far, then you guys are amazing, and thank you so much. I know there is definitely a few of you that always make the effort to make it this far, so thank you so much. Let's put a moon emoji for this book because I did very much enjoy it. So moon emoji if you've made it this far, and as always, thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it that thumbs up, subscribe, comment to let me know that you're here. Social media links will be linked below, and I will of course catch you in the next one.